Now, we all have our ups and downs, but sometimes it really can feel like the entire world is against you. Your job isn't going well, your family's falling apart, and your friends are just nowhere to be found. So I'm curious, ladies, have you ever felt like just the whole world was against you? And if so, how did you deal with that? Like, how did you deal with that feeling?
I definitely have to say that I've been there, and I have been to the lowest places. Meaning, and the reason why I say that is because I think about what's been happening to a lot of people lately in the last couple of years. It seems like people have just really gotten to a place where it just feels like everything is against you, and a lot of people have been giving up. And for me, I was at that moment at a young age. I know this is gonna sound crazy, but when I was in middle school, I thought about taking my own life.
No.
Yeah, I don't really like talking about it because it's like very emotional for me. But I'm only saying this because I know a lot of people are dealing with that right now.
Yeah.
But I was feeling like that. I really wanted to go through the motions. My mother at the time, she had a gun, and you know how you're a kid, you go through that stuff, so I knew where she kept it, and I had plans to use it. But whatever reason, God made her put it somewhere else because it wasn't where she normally kept it. I didn't even talk to my mom about this, really. But the point of this, of me saying it is, if I had done that at that time, think of all the wonderful things that I would have missed out on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I always like to tell people,
You got tissue?
it can't rain forever.
Yes, yes.
The sun is gonna shine again, and sometimes it's gonna shine so bright on you when it does.
Yes.
Things that you would never expect, like I had many, many blessings to come later after that moment that, you know, now that I'm older, I look at myself and I'm like, what was I thinking?
Kandi,
You know?
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
what,
Wow.
at that time, because this helps when we share it like this,
Yeah.
what were you going through at that time that made the world like seem like it was against you?
Well, and this is the thing, because I was super young, everything seems so much worse to a young person. So I had
Seems
an
like
older,
a bigger deal.
Right. My older brother at that time in middle school, he went away to college, so it was just me in the house, me and my mom. My mom had went through some health issues and she had this major surgery. And so everything that I was doing at the time, and mind you, I was doing the most. It was to the point where, you know, she just didn't know how to deal with me. And so she'd be like, oh, I'm gonna make you go stay with your dad, or I'm gonna make you, and every time I would mess up, I'd be like, oh, like everything just seemed to be wrong. You know, school was wrong. The things I was doing was wrong. You know, I just wasn't doing the right things. I didn't find my thing until like later on, until I got to high school. In middle school, I was just acting up. And I just wasn't in the right mind space. And so sometimes when I see young people saying that, you know, I love hearing young people saying they want to work on their mental health. Because although, you know, we're old school and we're like, what are they talking about? But it is important because when I was young, I was in that bad space, and it's a real thing. And then now I see in these last couple of years, it's a real thing for lots of people of all ages. So
people you wouldn't expect.
People that you wouldn't expect. So people always look at me and they're like, oh, everything happens right for you. And no, it doesn't. But back then, for whatever reason, I really felt like I just can't do anything right.
You get what and when you couldn't find the gun, thank God.
Praise God.
What happened when you couldn't find it? Did you leave?
No, I actually talked to some of my friends, my childhood friends on the phone, and, you know, of course, they were telling me, oh, don't do that, you know, you have so many great things to look forward to. And, you know, I guess just listening to them, feeling better, then, you know, the next day, things do get a little better. Actually, things got worse for me before they got better. I lost my brother, like, when I was in the 9th grade. But sometimes you go through a rainy season. And that rainy season can just feel like it's never going to end. But it does.
See,
It does, and that's what people need to hear.
And we always tell
it's all
people,
a season.
Take a beat. What happened was God gave you a beat. Like you were looking for it, you couldn't find it. and that allowed you to get a little space and a little focus. And that's why we make the suicide hotline. That's why we have
Talk to
different types of hotlines, because sometimes if you just talk to somebody, that can help you change your focus just a little bit.
Absolutely.
And I am so happy
We're
that
all
that
happy
happened.
about that.
Thank you.
Because could you imagine, we wouldn't have no escape. We wouldn't have you. We wouldn't have
mean, your
Riley.
beautiful
We
children.
wouldn't have all
Think
your...
about my kids.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Yes.
about
I
your
think,
kids.
and I agree with what you're saying. I mean, it's all these different things that I think about now. Even to be able to be there for my mom after my brother passed, I was like, how terrible that would have been to have lost one child and then lose another.
Right.
Yeah.
And anyway, I don't want to get all emotional, but the point is, I know what you're saying. When you say sometimes you feel the world is against you, so many of us have felt that way. But it doesn't have to stay that way.
That's right.
And that's just what I want.
And you
right.
got to remember,
That's
this
right.
was
That's
before there was social media.
Yeah.
And now
So
today,
imagine.
Right.
we have social media, and I feel for our children especially
next generation.
because they're reading comments.
Yes.
Some
Right.
of them are by themselves.
Yes.
You know, can you imagine you taking a beat and then you go and then somebody says something
really
bad?
mean.
Yeah.
Because
It takes you
imagine
over the
feeling
edge.
like you have the whole world against you and
Right.
you actually have access to the whole world on social
Right.
media.
Right.
Well, that's why it's important. I'm glad you talked to your friends to reach out to anyone. You know, whether it's an aunt, whether it's a neighbor, tell somebody what you're
Anyone.
going through so that you can come out of it. And I think you are the prime example of it doesn't stay bad because you are shining, you are bright, you have this amazing family. And we're so happy you didn't do what you wanted to do.
I'm so happy that I didn't either, because when I look at my kids, I'm like, you know what? Everything that you went through when you were younger is nothing, because this is so worth it.
Yeah.
Just getting through it. That's why I always tell people, push through.
Push through.
Push through,
Push
take
through.
a beat,
Push through.
take
Yeah.
a beat
So
and push
good.
through.
This
Thank
is going
you.
to change someone's
Yeah.
life. This is going to make somebody want to not do things that they are thinking of doing. Thank you for sharing this, for real.
Thank you,
You
Kandi.
could save someone's life.